Page 18, Teddington Blues. This is a blues piece. Here they're introducing what they're calling tied quavers. Depending on what country you're from, the notes are called different things. A quaver in some countries is like an eighth note in the United States. Here we would call them eighth notes, and that's generally what I call them. But in England or one of these other countries, you might call them quavers. I generally just use the American terms, and you can translate them as you need to. But that's what we're talking about here. Tied eighth notes is what it is. No big deal. You're just holding an eighth note down extra. They're tying two eighth notes together. You just hold an eighth note down for the same as a quarter note. But it throws the rhythm off. It introduces syncopation. Syncopation, you can Google syncopation or what it is, but to me, syncopation is when you play a note when you don't expect it, or you don't play a note when you do expect it, or maybe just an accent. It's an accent in the wrong place. It throws the rhythm off. It's edgy. That's syncopation. Blues, jazz, ragtime, these kinds, boogie woogies, they use a lot of syncopation. Has been around since the beginning of music. A lot of classical music uses syncopation, and it causes problems for a lot of people, so we'll talk about it. Let's go through this blues thing and see what we get. I see it's 3 lines long, more or less. I'll talk about that a little bit later. There's 3 lines of music to learn, let's put it that way. The clef signs are treble and bass clef again. The key signature, there's no sharps or flats, so we're either in the key of C major or A minor, or probably in a blues scale, but I don't teach blues scales. I'm going to stick with just major and minor scales. Do both scales, C major and A minor, and this piece, since it ends here, they added an A, but it's C chord. It's a C6 chord, but C major, yeah. And then C, or common time. Remember, that stands for 4/4 time. We have a lot of accidentals, which normally you'd get with blues and jazz. Now it's like, okay, we'll deal with them as we come to them. Right hand first, let's see what we have. They want a 2 and then a 1. We're sort of in this position. We're just going to cross over for the D sharp here. 1 and 2 and 3. And that rhythm throws people. Now, I'm not getting this. You know, if they hear somebody play it and they say, oh, I get it, but they can't read the music and understand it. And I'd like you to read the music and understand it. So when you struggle with something like this, when the rhythm is, what's going on? Well, temporarily take out the tie and play all the notes. They're just eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. Just eighth notes. Then when you can do that, put the tie in. You just hang on to the note rather than playing it again. 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and. That's all it is. It's really pretty simple, so don't make it complicated. And that rhythm is all over the place in this. Let's go down to the 3rd line. We're here, 1. And the second. We're taking advantage of the repeated notes to change hand positions. Rest. Okay. Left hand. Well, here. If you don't want to be up here, use second finger. Otherwise, thumb is fine. Then down here. And again, remember that flat sign is good for the rest of the measure. So all of these are flatted. Thumb again. I don't like going from here to here. Yeah. So I think I'm going to use here. 2. And then I can come down with I can finger this any way I want, because it's easier to do that than it is to do this. I don't want to use thumb on both. So I'm going to use some finger, and then maybe thumb on the A. So I think what I'm going to do, 2, 3, 1, 4. That seems weird, but it is. 2, 3, 1, 1. I'm kind of in this position. I just use the thumb on the A instead. It helps me to get through this awkward thing here. And we're back to what we were doing. Now, into the second line, or the last two measures here, you want 4. In order to put fourth finger on that B, I'm going to need thumb on the A, so I can cross over. So I need A. So that means I'm on third finger here. The second G in this is the second line, third measure. Third finger, thumb. Now I can cross over. Yuck. It just gets better and better, don't it? When something leads into something, you generally connect it. You go into here. You connect it. You don't go into here. No. Look at the last measure of the second line. And the first note of the next line is here. All that leads into it. It's going to lead into that. I want to connect it. I need a fingering that lets me connect it. But I have here, I got to come from the last line, I got to go from here to here. So what am I going to do with that? Well, it looks to me like I'm going to need fourth finger on that D in this first measure of the last line. That lets me get up here a little better. Little finger isn't going to work very well, but I can do fourth. So what I'm going to do for the last two measures of the second line, we're here. I'm just going to stay here. Stay 4, 3, 2, 1, 4. Here. And then third finger, and then I can come up. I'm closer to where I want to be. But I can connect all these quarter notes leading up to that. So again, I connect all that together. Up and down, up. You don't want to be up in here, you got to do that. I don't know how big your hands are. Okay. And that last chord in the last measure, that is a C, a G, and an A. See, if you're not sure what the chord is, you spell it out. That is, you start with the bottom note, and then the next, and the next, and the next, and the next, and so forth, till you get them all. Here it's a C, a G, and an A. Then I try to put the hands together. Well, again, I'm going to hesitate. I don't care. It's here. So both hands are moving, so I have to plan for that. Now, something I want to point out in the right hand, this fingering of 2, you could just use thumb. You don't have to go over the thumb. But first off, it puts your hand up in here, you may not want to be here. Secondly, we need this practice of going over the thumb. So I'm encouraging you to use this even though other fingerings might work. So I go through and I put the hands together, and then I go back over it slowly and carefully, and I work out the hesitations. So there is steady quarter notes in the left hand all the way through. It can go at any speed you want, doesn't matter, but no hesitations through the whole thing. And then I add the articulation. Your slurs, lift up, lift up. That's all. The left hand, I suggest for now you connect it until you get to the last line where they give you staccatos. And you slur those. You could disconnect them all the way through, but we'll just go ahead and go with what they have. So I'm going to connect the left hand. Until the last line, I'm just going to once I have an idea of the articulation, then I'll think about the dynamics. MP is mezzo piano or sort of soft, and that's the melody here. Left hand's very soft. Until you get the last line or the last measure, the second line where you come up. You're going to come up a little bit, but the left hand never gets to mezzo forte in the last line. That's the melody here. Sort of loud. The left hand only goes to about sort of soft. So you're very soft, come up to about a sort of soft here. So the right hand gets it. Now you're loud at the last measure. Yeah, and the very last measure is soft, both hands. And there's no melody there, it's just a chord. Then speed. Well, slow with a lazy beat. Don't go too slow, that drags it. Ugh. Now let's talk about this last line down here. I think we've had endings before, so hopefully you understand these last two measures. You have first and second ending. And the first ending, you play it the first time, and you have a repeat, sends you back to the beginning to do the whole mess again. But the second time you play it, you skip the first ending. You've already done it once, you're done. And you go over to the second ending and go on, which it ends there actually. And that fermata and the half note at the end, you just hang on to that for a while, let the sound die away. If I do it with a metronome, I'll hold it for 4 counts instead of 2. Now, something about blues music. It's a genre of music that has a particular style to it. Blues, swing, and jazz are quite similar in this way. And that is, when they give you eighth notes, you generally will swing the eighth notes. You'll swing the counting. There's no notation to tell you to do it. You just do it. If they want even eighth notes, they're supposed to put in a note in the music. Play evenly or even something. Otherwise, you swing it. And that means you don't go 1 and 2 and 3. You go 1 and 2 and 3. You just feel this. There's no notation for it. You feel it. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Just feel this all the way through. And also in blues, it's a standard of the piece is the style. That last note that's held out, because you get at the end of a blues piece, a lot of it you'll get a chord at the end that's just held out. It's actually quite common to pedal that note. Don't pedal anything else. You add overtones just for that last note. It's contrast. Push the note down first, then the pedal, and then lift everything up together. It just adds the overtones for that last little bit. That's interpretation. They don't show it here. I'm not going to show the pedaling if that's it. But in my opinion, you could pedal that last chord there. Let's play this together slowly and check the notes and the rhythms. I'm going to do this with even eighth notes, 1 and 2 and. I'm not going to do any louds and softs, but we will do the repeat. And I'll do the staccatos and all that stuff. So I'll give us 4 counts. 1 and 2 and ready and go and. second ending. 1 and 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, off.